Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This here is a 2006 Honda 400EX. Pretty clean quad. It is not mine. It is a buddy of mine. Actually, is his kid's. So he picked it up for him. It's a pretty clean bike. Do a quick walk around of it, but it's here in my garage today because it doesn't idle well, and it stalls out a little bit, and it seems to run a little rough at times. So it wasn't used that much by the previous owner. My thought is the carburetor probably needs a good cleaning, and I don't think it's had a valve adjustment ever. So I'm going to strip all the plastics off, pull the gas tank off, do a valve adjustment on it, clean out the carb, put it back together, and I'm thinking it's probably going to run like $1 million after that, but we will see. So pretty clean 2006. It's got new tires on it. I don't think anything's ever really been done to it. It doesn't look like it's ever been rolled. It's got a few scratches on the rear plastics, but for a 400EX, pretty clean. I kind of like this body style of the 400s. This is my favorite one, with the front headlight like that. So, good looking machine, black. Still even has the storage in the back for the toolkit, which a lot of them are broken off already. So it's all pretty original. Previous owner, took pretty good care of it. Just I think it needs a little TLC, little maintenance, little freshening up, and it'll be good to go. So we're gonna, like I said, gonna clean the carb out, do a valve adjustment on it. I'll show you guys how to do the valve adjustment on these, and it's not too bad. Once you get all the plastics off, which you should already know how to do. If you can't take the plastics off, don't attempt the valve adjustment. So I'll show you how to do the valve adjustment. I'll get all the plastics off, and then we'll run through it. I think that they're off. The motor sounds like it's a little bit, these are kind of noisy motors anyway, but it sounds a little extra noisy on the top end, the valves, a little bit of valve ticking. So my hunch is the valve adjustment is way off. And if it's original and it's never been done, they're probably definitely a little tight. So, but we will see. All right, so we got her all taken apart. Gas tank off, carb still on there. I'm going to do the valve adjustment first, and then I'll just pop the carburetor off, pull the float off, and take the jets out. My hunch is the pilot jet's probably a little dirty. So we'll get the valve adjustment done first, with a valve check first, adjustment if it needs it. But my hunch is probably going to. So these are all the plastics and the gas tank I took off. Everything came off really nice. It doesn't look like it's ever been taken apart before. So that's an indicator that it probably hasn't had a valve adjustment, because you really can't get to the valves, as you can see, without taking all that stuff off. I didn't see any pry marks on plastics. There's a lot of little push pin clips you got to pop out. None of them were missing or broken. They all came out nicely. So it doesn't seem like anything's really been stripped down this far on this machine. So it's fairly stock. I don't see any marks even on the caps, the nuts on the caps for the, these are the caps you're going to take off to check your valves. All right, so you have your intake valves on this side, and then your exhaust valves on that side. So right here on the side, take these two caps off here. They're right down there. When you take them off, that was another indicator to me that this thing hasn't been really checked probably, or had this done, because those O-rings were sealed on there pretty good, and the caps were pretty tight. So I don't think they've ever even been off. The O-rings were stuck in there. I pulled them off. They're still in pretty good shape, so we'll put a little grease around the O-rings when we put them back on, to kind of help them from tearing and seal up well. Shouldn't be any leaks after that. And so what you're gonna do is 17 millimeter socket here on the crank bolt. We're gonna look in that window. There's gonna be a little T we should see on the this little T marking. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm gonna get you. We're gonna turn this until we see that T mark,
lined up with that little dash, little notch there, you'll see. Once the T is lined up with that, that's top dead center. Then we can take the caps off, check the valve lash, and adjust if needed. So let's get this sucker. I'm gonna see if I can do this while we're on camera, and if you guys could even see it. So I'm gonna keep going. You feel when you get in the top dead center because you're gonna have a little more compression. You know what I mean? So I don't see anything yet. What do we got there? All right, so got that with the T. Let's see if you can try to lighten it. You guys can see it. You see there's a T with a little hash mark in front of it. That's top dead center. Okay, so we're at where we need to be. Now we're going to take the valve caps off and check the valve lash, and I'll show you how to do that here. Let me get the caps off, and then we'll get the feeler gauges out. I'll show you how to check that. All right, guys, caps off. You already saw we're at top dead center. So now what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna get a set of feeler gauges. If you don't have them, pick them up at any auto parts store. Intake valves, I don't know if that's gonna focus, but the intake valve you want at 0.004 or 1 millimeter, okay? This is 1.02, measures 0.004. So I'm not an octopus and I don't have 8 hands, so you have to hold the screw with a flathead and take a 10 millimeter wrench, crack the retaining nut back, loosen it. This way you can adjust the valve lash with this screw and flathead, okay? I could not, these valves were so tight, I could not get this in there at all. Now you can see it moves with a little bit of drag. That's what you want, okay? Once you got it that way, you hold the screw with the flathead, tighten the retaining nut back down with the 10 millimeter. You need to hold the adjustment screw with the flathead while you're tightening the 10 millimeter nut down. This way the valve lash doesn't move and you hold the valve in place. You hold the adjustment screw, I should say, in place. Obviously, once you get the nut down, recheck it, make sure the valve lash is still good. If it moves a little bit, crack the nut loose, adjust it till it's right when it's tight, when the nut is tight. So you should want a little bit of drag. You can tell by when you turn, I couldn't even get it in there, so I had to loosen the screw until I can get the feeler gauge in there. That's probably why this thing has such bad idling issues when it's cold, because the valves are too tight. So when you back it off till you can get the gauge in there, turn it, crank it back down until when you move it, you can't move it, it's too tight. Back it off a little bit until you just have some drag. That's what you want, just the way it is now, a little drag. It's gonna go right there, okay? You're gonna tighten that down, and then we're gonna do the other intake, and then we'll do the exhaust valves on that side. And that's it, super easy. So let me get the other intake valve adjusted, and then we'll check the exhaust valves. All right, guys, I just wanted to show you, I tightened the locking nut back down before we go to the exhaust side. I kind of want to show you the difference and why I did what I did, why we're doing this. So you can see I have my feeler gauge here, 0.004, and I can slide it in there, and you can hear it. It's just a little drag, right? Now, watch on this side. This is the non-adjusted side. I can't even get it in there. You know what I mean? That's super tight. That's how this side was. Okay, now this side is adjusted properly. And the reason that happens is over time and engine hours, metal wears. So the valve seats wear out, where the valve seat on the head wear, and it works itself in. So it becomes tight, okay? This becomes tight. So now once that becomes really tight, if you keep running it like that, what you're doing is you're actually sucking the valve into the head even tighter, causing more damage to your head long term, and possibly breaking a valve or bending a valve. So you want to make sure your valve adjustment is correct. That's why it's super important to check your valve adjustment after so many hours on a bike, for things like this. If you notice cold, it doesn't idle, doesn't stay running when it's cold, or it doesn't start well when it's cold, that's a good indication that the valves are too tight. Okay, if it warms up, when it warms up, things loosen up a little bit, right? So it'll tend to idle better, and it won't stall out. When it's cold and the valves are too tight, it's not going to stay running correctly. So that's definitely the issue here on the intake valves. I'm positive the exhaust valves are going to be off as well if the intake valves were that tight. So let me get the other intake valve adjusted, and then we'll do the exhaust valves, and we'll show you what that looks like. All right, guys, so I did the exhaust valve lash. They were just as bad as the intake side. So the exhaust is 0.005, and the intake is 0.004 on the feeler gauge. So 1 millimeter is the intake side, and 0.004 for inches. And on the exhaust side, it's 0.005. I believe that's 0.12 millimeter. So this machine that's the lash between the adjustment screw and the top of the valve. So that's how much space you have, the 0.005 millimeters. This had 0 lash on the exhaust and the intake side. It was actually probably negative. It was actually probably holding the valves open, hence, killing the power of the machine because they were so tight. So we got them adjusted right now. I want to do a carburetor cleaning on this thing, but I also want to just run it quick, make sure there's no valve noise. It starts up good. I want to put the caps back on, prop the gas tank up, and then put the fuel line back on and give it a start and hear how she sounds. All right, guys, so got the carburetor cleaned out. Did that off camera. When I had the tank off, it was just the easiest time to do it. So pulled the carb off the intake and off the intake manifold, I should say, going to the head, and then off of the air intake. And then at that point, the carburetor, you could just turn it right upside down right there where it sits. Take the bowl off, pull the jets out. The pilot jet was, as I suspected, a little bit clogged. It is super tiny. It's a 0.38 size pilot jet on this. That's what was in there, and I'm not sure if that's the factory one or not, but it was clogged up a little bit. Couldn't really see through it. So cleaned that out. Cleaned the main jet out as well. The rest of the carb actually looked fine, but those pilot jets are just so tiny. The slightest thing can plug them up. So got that cleaned up, put it back together. Just put the gas tank on. Choke is off. We don't have no choke on it. It's pretty warm. It's like 95 today, so I shouldn't need the choke usually on most of my machines. When it's this hot out, I don't need the choke. So we'll see if it starts right up. If it does, then I'll know right away it was the pilot jet issue, because this thing would never idle. Even warm, it would stall. So cold, it wouldn't idle at all. You'd have to keep your thumb on the throttle, and you couldn't even use the choke. So we'll see if it worked. And then the engine was pretty noisy before. The valves, like I said, were really tight. So let's see what we got. Let's see if she starts up. Let's make sure the fuel's on. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, she's idling nice. This is already light years better than it was. It's idling perfect, actually. And it hasn't run all day. It hasn't run since yesterday when they dropped it off to me. Wow. Engine is super quiet now, too. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but purring like a kitten. No valve noise at all. Before, it was ticking like crazy, super loud. Now she's running great. Well, looks like we fixed her up. Gonna get the plastics put back on and deliver this one over to my buddies. The son can enjoy it. And that's all for this video, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. We got another mod coming up for the Renegade. We're going to do a Dalton clutch kit on that, and Renegade 570 Dalton clutch kit. So subscribe to the channel, check out that one. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Like, share, subscribe to videos, comment below. I love hearing from you guys. I always try to respond to every comment. I appreciate everybody who tunes into these videos, and we will catch you on the next one. Hope this was helpful to somebody. Thanks again. Ride safe. See you on the next video.